For 28 years, I was treated like a guest in my own family. When they humiliated me again this Christmas, I walked away. But the open letter I wrote afterward changed everything. I knew I was about to regret walking through that front door. Not because of some vague holiday tension or family awkwardness. No, this time, it was something deeper. The kind of dread that sits behind your ribs like a ticking clock. Because I knew the second I walked into my parents' grand Victorian house, they'd remind me I didn't belong. And they did. They always do. I'm Maya, 28, single, no kids, just a career I built from scratch and a stubborn refusal to let anyone else define me. I'm the youngest of 4. And in my family, being the youngest isn't endearing. It's a permanent label stamped on your forehead, doesn't count yet. No matter how far I've come in my own life, I'm still baby Maya to them. The one who didn't settle down, which in their dictionary is the only metric that matters. They speak fluent condescension, smiling while dismissing everything I've ever worked for. Still, I show up to Christmas dinner every year like a loyal idiot. I walk into the cold, antique house where everything looks perfect but feels haunted. Not by ghosts, by expectations, by judgment. My brother Chris is already rearranging the place like he owns it, with his 3 shrieking kids and Pinterest wife Danielle, who wears matching outfits with their toddler twins. Amy, my sister, has her own baby wrapped in a $200 sleep sack and a life that photographs beautifully. Then there's me. No plus one. Just me and my overcoat, and the sinking sense that I should have turned around the minute I pulled up. My mom greets me with the same fake smile she's perfected over the years. It doesn't reach her eyes. It says, "Oh good, the misfit made it. Let's try not to embarrass anyone this time." "Maya, sweetie," she says, arms outstretched. Her hug is loose and perfunctory, like she's hugging a distant cousin she barely remembers. Before I can even take off my coat, my dad bellows from the next room. Dinner's ready. Kids to the kids' table, adults to the dining room. And then my mom, almost like she'd rehearsed the moment, turns to me with that same syrupy voice. "Maya, why don't you sit with the little ones? We saved you a spot at the kids' table, so you don't feel left out." I actually blinked. Thought maybe I misheard. The kids' table. The one with the plastic chairs and paper plates. The one that smelled like spilled apple juice and toddler tantrums. The one they usually reserve for people who can't hold a fork properly. I looked past her, into the dining room where the adults were sipping red wine, basking in candlelight and passing heirloom china like royalty. There was no seat for me. Not even a folding chair squeezed into the corner. They hadn't even considered me. This wasn't about tradition. This wasn't about space. This was a message, loud and clear. You don't belong here. I looked at my mother and smiled. But it wasn't a real smile. It was the kind you give someone right before you walk away for good. "Sure, Mom. Thanks." She nodded, pleased with herself. I sat at that tiny plastic table surrounded by toddlers, smearing mashed potatoes on their faces and each other. I stared at my plate like it had answers, like it could explain why I still tried. Why I still hoped that maybe this year would be different. Then I saw it. A piece of broccoli fall off a toddler's fork and hit the floor near my shoe. That was it. That was the moment. Something inside me snapped, not in a loud, dramatic way. Quiet. Final. Like a lock clicking shut from the inside. I stood up, walked to the coat rack, and left. Didn't say a word. Didn't shout or cry or throw a tantrum like they probably expected. Just grabbed my coat, pulled open the front door, and let the freezing air slap me awake. "Maya, where are you going?" my mom called after me. I didn't even look back. "I'm leaving." And then, for the first time in my life, I didn't turn around to see if they cared. The door slammed shut behind me, and that sound, that was freedom. I didn't stop driving until I found a diner 3 towns away. I sat in a booth with chipped vinyl seats and ordered pancakes I didn't want, hands still shaking, phone lighting up with text after text from the family that couldn't find a seat for me at the table. But now I was the one who disappeared. And trust me, they had no idea what I was about to do next. I sat in that booth long after my coffee went cold, watching the waitress refill other people's cups, thinking about how easy it is to be forgotten, to be overlooked. That was my whole life in one metaphor. My family pouring everything into their chosen kids while I sat at the sidelines, waiting to be noticed. But this time, I didn't want back in. Not unless something changed. My phone was buzzing like a wasp nest. Text after text, call after call, Voice messages I couldn't bring myself to listen to. I knew what they'd say before even reading them. The same script they always used. Guilt trips disguised as concern. Apologies that sounded more like corrections. Warnings, probably, about how I'd ruined Christmas. And then the messages turned. First came Chris. Maya, this is ridiculous. Just come back already. You're making this harder than it has to be. Then Amy. Please, Mom's really upset. We're all worried. Just let this go, okay? Then my dad. As if reading from the handbook of emotional manipulation. You're acting like a child. Stop being dramatic. I stared at his message for a long time, my reflection caught in the black screen. Child. The irony made me laugh out loud in that silent booth. They put me at the kids' table, treated me like an afterthought for years, and now, I was the immature one? No, not this time. I opened the family group chat. Their messages were piling up like junk mail. I scrolled, my finger hovering over the keyboard, not ready to speak yet. And then I saw it. A picture. An old one. From 5 years ago. Christmas morning. My siblings huddled around the fireplace with their kids and spouses. Everyone dressed in matching plaid pajamas. And there I was, in the back, half cropped out of the frame, holding the camera remote. The ghost behind the family they actually wanted. I saved that photo to my phone, then posted it right back into the group chat with a caption that was sharp enough to draw blood. Here's to the perfect family. Always making sure the youngest one knows her place. The read receipts came in instantly, one by one. Amy responded first. Maya, what the hell? This isn't helping anyone. Chris, grow up. You chose to leave. We didn't force you. My dad. You have no idea how hard your mother works to keep this family together, and this is how you repay her? But the one that hit hardest was my mom. Short. Brutal. Maya, don't make this about you. You're being selfish. You're ruining Christmas. That word again. Selfish. Like asking to be treated like an equal member of my own family was a crime against holiday cheer. I could have ignored them. Could have powered off my phone and nursed my hurt quietly like always. But there was a part of me that had grown sharp, a part that was tired of being digestible, palatable, quiet. So I wrote back. Not a tantrum. Not a threat. A statement. This isn't about the table. It never was. It's about how you've all treated me like I don't matter unless I'm married or useful to you. It's about never being seen for who I actually am. I'm done pretending that's okay. Send. I watched the 3 little dots blink as they typed and deleted and typed again. Then nothing. Silence. The best kind of silence. The kind where people don't know what to say because, for the first time, the truth has landed squarely at their feet and they have to look at it. Still, my hands were shaking. Not because I regretted it, but because I knew this was the point of no return. There would be no neat cleanup. No quick patch over the wound. If they wanted me back in their lives, they were going to have to earn it this time. And then Amy sent another message. Different this time. Maya, I didn't realize you felt that way. I just thought you were okay. I'm sorry. That nearly cracked me. Because for a long time, Amy was the closest thing I had to an ally in that house. The sister who used to sneak candy into my room when I got grounded. Who once told me I was going to do big things because I was the smartest person she knew. But somewhere along the line, she stopped defending me. She started fitting in. Started playing the part. Still, her apology felt like a sliver of light. I didn't respond right away. I needed time to figure out whether that light was real or just another way to keep me in the dark. I sat in that booth until the sun started to rise, painting the sky a pale orange. My waitress came by, gently placed the check on the table, and offered me a kind smile. She didn't ask questions. She didn't tell me to smile more or that family is everything. She just brought me a to-go cup of coffee and said, wherever you're headed next, don't forget your worth. I looked down at my phone again. One last message had come through. From my mom. You've made your point. Now come home and apologize. And just like that, I knew. They hadn't changed. But I had. I didn't respond to my mother's message. Not yet. Instead, I drove. No destination, no plan. Just the road. The sky bleeding early morning light, and the weight of 28 years pressing into my chest. I ended up on the outskirts of the town I left when I was 19. A gas station I hadn't seen in almost a decade flickered into view like a ghost from my past. The convenience store next to it still had the old neon, open 24 hours sign buzzing in the window. I parked. Sat in silence. Let the weight of everything crash into me. That message, Come home and apologize. It wasn't just about tonight. It was their greatest hit on repeat. The same thing they said when I tried to speak up years ago. Before the career, before the self-worth I'd had to build from scratch. When I was 17, there was a boy, Evan. He wasn't my first crush, or even my first kiss, but he was the first person who ever saw me. Not as someone's little sister. Not as a failure for not fitting their script. But as me. He was 2 years older, worked at the record store downtown, smelled like cigarettes and cinnamon gum, and had these warm brown eyes that could burn through a lie in a second. We used to talk in secret. He'd pick me up after school when Chris forgot, or when Amy was too busy to care. He taught me how to drive in the abandoned parking lot behind the old movie theater. Said I had a fighter's heart, even when I didn't believe him. Then one day, Mom found a note he'd written me. Just a dumb, sweet letter tucked in my jacket pocket, saying he couldn't wait to hear me sing again. That I had the kind of voice people don't forget. She flipped. Said he was manipulating me, that I was too young to make choices, and grounded me for a month. My dad, he didn't even read the note. Just threw it in the fire while telling me I should be grateful they cared so much. I remember crying in the laundry room, my safe place back then, listening to them scream about how I was throwing my future away and disrespecting the family. But the part I'll never forget? Amy, standing there in the hallway, watching me cry, saying nothing, not defending me, not asking if I was okay, just disappearing into the background like I wasn't even real. That was the first time I felt truly invisible. So when I read Mom's message tonight, come home and apologize, it didn't just sting. It scraped across a scar I'd buried deep. Because in their eyes, I was always the one who had to apologize. For being too loud, too sensitive, too different, to me. And the sad part? For years I did. Over and over. I apologized for existing wrong. I swallowed my pain to keep peace. Let them shine while I disappeared. But tonight? No more. I grabbed my phone, hands shaking, and pulled up Amy's text again. The one that felt different. The one that sounded real. Maya, I didn't realize you felt that way. I'm sorry. I stared at those words, heart pounding. She had to have remembered Evan. The note. The silence. I needed to know if this apology came from the sister who used to tuck snacks under my pillow, or from someone trying to keep the family ship from sinking. So I replied, you once watched them destroy the only thing that made me feel like I mattered. And you said nothing. Do you remember? 3 dots. Then none. Then again. I remember. I hated myself for it. I didn't know how to stand up to them. I was scared too. Another message. But I see you now. I swear, Maya. I see you. I read it a dozen times. And for the first time that night, I cried. Not out of anger. Not from bitterness. But because someone had finally said the words I'd needed for years. I see you. That's all I ever wanted. Not a throne. Not applause. Just to be seen. Heard. Treated like I belonged. But that didn't erase what they'd done. And one apology didn't undo decades of damage. I knew what I had to do next. I drove to a motel. Paid in cash. It wasn't glamorous, but it had Wi-Fi and quiet. I opened my laptop and started drafting something I never thought I'd write. An open letter. To my family. To my followers. To everyone who'd ever felt invisible in the homes that were supposed to protect them. Because this story wasn't just mine anymore. And if they thought I was done making noise, they had no idea what I was about to unleash. The letter took me 3 hours to write. Not because I didn't know what to say, but because I knew exactly what to say, and I wanted every word to hit where it hurt. It wasn't a sob story. It wasn't some cry for attention. It was a statement. A declaration. A fire lit under years of silence and second-place treatment. I titled it, When You're Always the Youngest, No One Notices When You're Drowning. I wrote about the Christmas dinner, the seat at the kids' table, the years of being treated like a seasonal ornament they dusted off when it was convenient. I described the way they praised my siblings' marriages and babies like golden tickets to legitimacy while ignoring everything I'd built. I talked about the photo, the one where I was half cropped out, and how it perfectly captured what they thought of me. But I didn't stop there. I went further. Back to Evan. Back to 17. I told the world how they made me feel like I didn't deserve love. How they punished me for simply being seen. How they burned the first letter that ever made me feel like I mattered. And how this Christmas, they did it again. I didn't name names. I didn't need to. The truth was sharp enough without specifics. The story was universal and brutal. I hit post around 3 a.m., didn't even tag anyone. Just put it out there. A scream in the void. Then I turned off my phone and slept for the first time in 2 days. When I woke up, the world had changed. Hundreds of shares. Thousands of likes. A sea of comments from strangers saying, I thought I was the only one. People opening up about their own families, their own exile from the table. But not all the responses were strangers. Amy messaged me first. Maya, what did you do? Then Chris, take that down. Now, my mom didn't text. She called 10 times. Left 4 voicemails. The last one was practically a shriek. Maya, how could you do this to us? To me? You've embarrassed this family. You've put our private business online like some influencer meltdown. This is not who we raised you to be. That last part made me laugh out loud. Not who they raised me to be. Exactly. They raised me to be silent. Small. Compliant. But I'd grown up. And they hated it. I went back online and froze. The post had been flagged. Content under review for targeted harassment. My heart dropped. Then another message popped up. Amy again. Mom's trying to get your post taken down. She said she has a lawyer friend who knows someone at the platform. She's calling it libel. It hit me all at once. They weren't just embarrassed. They were trying to erase me. Again. But this time I was ready. I screenshotted everything. The post, the metrics, the comments, the messages. I backed it all up to cloud drives. Multiple ones. Then I wrote a follow-up post. When you finally speak the truth, they don't apologize. They scramble to shut you up. My story is mine, and I won't be silenced again. It blew up even faster. Now the story wasn't just about family drama. It was about control, erasure, a grown woman refusing to sit down and take it. I started getting DMs from journalists, editors, even a podcast producer who wanted to do a series on the generational silencing of black sheep daughters. I didn't say yes to anything. Not yet. Because this wasn't about fame. It was about finally being real. Finally being seen. And then my dad texted me. If you keep this up, you're not welcome in this family again. Ever. Choose wisely. There it was. The ultimatum. Be silent, or be exiled. But the thing was, I'd already survived exile. I'd lived through 1,000 silent rooms, cold dinners, fake smiles. I was done pretending. I opened his message. Replied with just 3 words. I already chose. And then I blocked him. For good. 3 days after I posted the letter, Amy showed up at my door. No warning. No text. Just her standing there on my apartment stoop in a long camel coat, holding a grocery bag like she wasn't the one who'd stood by and watched me get carved out of our family like bad fruit. Maya, she said, voice small. I didn't speak. I brought soup, she added, holding the bag up like it was an offering that could undo years of silence. I let her in, not because I wanted to, but because a part of me, a scarred, wary part, needed to know what she had to say. She walked in like it hurt, like my apartment was too quiet, too real. I didn't offer her a seat. I've read your posts. All of them, she said finally. And I've spent the last 3 days crying, because I knew it was true. All of it. She looked up. Her eyes were red, rimmed with guilt. But I need to tell you something I've never said before, something I should have said when we were kids. I stayed still, arms crossed. That night you got grounded over Evan. Mom made me read the letter. She handed it to me in the laundry room like it was evidence of your corruption. And I read it, and I wanted to scream that it was beautiful, that someone saw you, really saw you. But I stayed quiet, because I was scared of her, of Dad, of being next. Her voice cracked. I became the good daughter because I thought it would protect me. But all it did was make me part of the machine that hurt you. I felt like I couldn't breathe. That letter had haunted me for years. To know it had passed through Amy's hands, to know she'd read my heart and walked away, was like reopening the wound. You let them destroy me, I said quietly. I know. You said nothing when they exiled me from Christmas, year after year. I know. I turned away. My heart felt like it was made of ash and glass. But Maya, she said softly, you didn't let it break you. You turned it into something powerful. You made people see you. I finally faced her. That doesn't erase what you let happen. No, she said. But maybe it's the beginning of something else. She reached into her coat pocket and pulled out a small envelope. My name, written in her handwriting. Inside was a photo. Me and her. At a beach. I was 8. She was 10. We were both covered in sand, laughing so hard our eyes were closed. I found it yesterday. Thought you might want it back. I stared at the photo. That moment felt like it belonged to different people. Two girls who hadn't learned yet how to hurt each other with silence. I'm not coming back, I said. She nodded. I figured. But I wanted you to know I left the family group chat. I told them if they wanted me in their lives, they'd have to apologize to you first. That hit harder than I expected. I don't know if that makes up for anything, she added. But it's a start. We stood in silence for a long moment. Then I walked her to the door. As she stepped out, she turned back one last time. You were always the brave one, she said. I just hope someday you'll let me earn my way back in. I closed the door gently. And for the first time in years, it didn't feel like I was locking myself away from my family. It felt like I was finally home. Alone, but whole.